Take a look at this article from International Business Times. First, Charlie Kirk. Are Candace Owens or Ben Shapiro next? Fears grow for conservative influencers. Mother Jones writes, pardoned insurrectionists are using Charlie Kirk's death to call for civil war. We have this from The Lever. We must stop this civil war before it's unstoppable. The Lever actually writing that it's already begun. They're writing in the present tense that it's happening. Here's Yahoo Finance. Concerns grow that bot networks may be amplifying calls for civil war after Charlie Kirk killing. And perhaps on social media, that is what we're seeing. This post on X, it says, open carry now, civil war has begun. It has 5.8 million views and 8,400 retweets. We have this post from Common Dreams. This is a well-known activist organization that published the article saying, is Trump inciting a civil war 2.0 to steal the midterms? And then we have this from NDTV, Civil War Echoes. Sanjeev Sanyal warns U.S. resembles April 1861. I want to read a little bit from The Independent, and then we can have this conversation. The reason why, you know that we've talked about this quite a bit. I, of course, have talked about it, and I will say it, and I wish I was wrong, but I was not wrong. And to all of the people who have continually denied what we have discussed on this show for the past several years, we have not been wrong. We've been relatively vague, and that's fair because we're not making heavy predictions. But I will remind you of this. One of the things that really irked me was in September of 2020, I stated on this show that were Trump to lose, these right-wing people are going to rush the White House. They're going to storm the White House. They are not going to just let this go idly by. And that was just passive thought. That was just, I can't see these people letting Trump lose. And what happened? January 6th. I said in November, after Trump, if Trump loses, this is what's going to happen. What did happen in January? People stormed the Capitol. Following this, people used my earlier accurate prediction on the left to claim I had foreknowledge of January 6th and should be criminally charged or investigated. In fact, I was just reading the news and making a prediction. And what did I say just last year? In a debate on the Culture War show that Donald Trump would use the military in the ICE and immigration enforcement. The left would not tolerate it. There would be a battle between the governors and the federal government over control of the National Guard, and it will escalate. And that is exactly where we are right now. And every step of the way I said, I hope I'm wrong. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe this right now is the point. This story where people say, this has gone too far. Left and right, Christian, Jew, Muslim come together. They say, guys, we can't live this way, and they hug it out. Maybe this is the point, but I don't believe it. And I'll tell you why. I'm going to read this from Stephen Marsh, who says, at the time of writing, the suspect in the shooting of Charlie Kirk is still at large, and his motivations are unknown. But the identity of the killer and the reasons for killing hardly matter. Whoever they are and whatever their intention, the fallout is utterly predictable. Divided America will divide further. Political violence already surging will surge further. America will continue further down the road to perdition of the republic. He says far more political figures have been murdered in American history than in the history of any other democracy. More than a quarter of U.S. presidents have either survived an assassination attempt or died at the hands of a killer. But in the past, each assassination of a president or a judge was treated as a collective national tragedy. It was understood that the violence perpetrated by whomever was a disaster for the body politic as a whole. Politics exist, after all, to save us from violence as a means of resolving disputes. The sense of collective mourning no longer applies. The reaction to Kirk's death instantaneously split American discourse. Here was a 31-year-old man murdered in broad daylight in front of his wife and children before a crowd of thousands at Utah Valley University. Americans could not agree that that was unacceptable. I don't want to promote or identify people on social media who crowd about the death like their team had just won a football game, but on my feeds at least, it was not limited to a few cranks or extremists. Quote, what about the children killed in Colorado? Was a perfectly common sentiment. Anyone on the left who imagines the political assassination of their opponents is going to lead to more stability or a better America is seriously deluded. I will say this personally. A high-profile individual, a liberal that I've known for 10 years, posted a video on their Instagram saying Charlie Kirk got what he advocated for. And I was shocked that they posted this because I genuinely thought that there was still reason left in some of these people, but I can't say that I feel that way, and I don't know what's going to happen. Now he goes on to add, journalists are now targets. The political class and judges have been under extreme threat since Trump took office. It's hard to even keep track of it anymore. The former House Speaker of Minnesota and her husband were murdered in June. A Molotov cocktail was thrown at the governor of Pennsylvania's house during Passover. And U.S. judges who sit on Trump cases regularly receive pizzas delivered to them as an intimidation tactic. Targeting journalists is new. Last month, the New York Times editor Joseph Kahn had his apartment graffitied in New York. Kirk's assassination is the organic continuation of these trends. But you know what was really scary? Charlie Kirk is not a journalist. He was a personality. He was a civilian. He was a man who expressed opinions. He didn't write for a great news publication, purport to be a journalist. He shared his thoughts on the goings-on of this country. And this is what's terrifying. Now, there's much more that he writes about, but I don't want to just keep, ranting myself. The point, I think, is clear, and you have seen it. The comments on social media on the left. There are tiers of this. From the overt leftist calls for escalation, the publishing of videos from lesser-known personalities on TikTok, Instagram, and X saying one guy said, you're next, over and over again. We know what the implication was that he was making. Several are gloating, saying, who's next? There's lists that have been published, which include my name, saying, here's who we want next. There are people on Blue Sky, X, Instagram, etc., saying, here's the list of people they want to go after. It is insanity. And that is all across social media. So with that being the sentiment, that's one tier. The next tier are the people who are prominent liberals, high-profile actors, high-profile politicians, people like Ilhan Omar, for instance, who are coming out and saying, yeah, well, maybe Charlie shouldn't have said hateful things. So you have the tacit liberal, Charlie got what he deserved attitude, and then you have the overt leftist, we're coming for the rest of you. I will give a shout out to the handful of prominent liberals who have condemned the violence. Many of the high-profile Democrats have, and I respect that. Without naming them, because I don't seek to embarrass them. Some of these young liberals crying on camera over Charlie's death, talking about how bad it is. But with all of that being said, it's the sentiment we are seeing reeks of an untenable bifurcation in the body politic. We have said it on this show many times. Where is the off-ramp? And unfortunately, and one of the most terrifying comments that I got was, Charlie Kirk was the off-ramp. He held debates, and he succeeded at those debates. And were his methods to have been permanently successful, the course of politics in this country was rooted in having a conversation. Across Louisville, there are graphics that have been drawn up in less than a day of pictures of Charlie Kirk that say, debate this, with blood spraying from his neck. I refuse to watch the videos of these people advocating for my death and the death of other people, because I know it will just make me angry, and I already factually understand these people exist. I just fear that there is no backing down, and the only thing I can say is every direction I look and have looked over the past several years, this goes in one direction. But I'm curious now what y'all think.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly does feel like from the right wing's perspective that a Rubicon was crossed. I mean, John Doyle had a viral tweet yesterday where he said, you just killed the last person in America that wanted to change your mind. And that's just the common sentiment you're seeing on the right, is they're saying this was the olive branch. This was the off-ramp. This was the pathway back to civil discourse. Yep. And they chewed it up and shot the man who was pushing that. So,
and
again, yeah.
I just want to, I think everyone understands this. Charlie didn't think this was going to happen.
Right.
He's had conversations about the fears of threats to his safety, but this was a man that so believed in the goodness of this country, despite the violence we had seen, that he was going out in public doing these events because, of course, none of us thought this was possible.
Yeah, well, I said this today on PCC. Like, one of the things that's really frustrating, at least to me personally, is in my mentions and stuff, replies on X, because I've been tweeting up a storm about the whole situation, like retweeting stuff. There's a lot of people that say, oh, because I made a remark yesterday about, I want the feds to use their authority and actually treat these people as if they're inciting. And people are like, oh, well, what happened to the First Amendment? What happened to the First Amendment? The First Amendment was Charlie.
Yep.
Right? Like, Charlie was the guy that wanted to go and speak and use persuasion. Well, the left doesn't want that, clearly. Like, they don't want to hear other opinions. So I'm not the First Amendment guy. I'm the guy that comes after him. Mm-hmm. I want the feds to do something. I want the government to. And I don't care when people tell me, oh, if you let the feds do something, they're gonna do it to you when they're already gonna. Like, if the Democrats get back into power, they're already going to throw people in jail. They're already going to change the laws to punish conservatives. Now, I know there are people around the table that disagree with me, and that's fine. But the fact of the matter is, the right and people on the right have been treated as second-class citizens for at least 10 years. That it has been where if you go out wearing a MAGA hat, you risk getting beat up for wearing clothes. This is something that has been the norm for people on the right, and I'm just tired of it. So now that the right has the office of the presidency, has the Congress, has the Senate, I want the government to go after the people that are attacking people over their politics. This is terrorism.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.